The evening was alive with soft jazz, laughter, and the clinking of wine glasses at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. A girl in a faded dress, holding a small notebook, stepped nervously toward the entrance. She wasn't there to dine, she just wanted to meet the manager and ask about a job. But before she could explain, the maitre d' gave her a cold glance. "I'm sorry, miss. This place is for paying customers only. You can't come in like this." His tone carried more than rules, it carried judgment. People nearby turned to look, some whispering, some smirking. The girl's face burned with embarrassment as she lowered her head, ready to walk away. That's when a voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me," said a man rising from the center table. The crowd went silent. It was the millionaire who owned the very restaurant she had been turned away from. All eyes followed him as he walked toward the door. Instead of scolding her, he offered his hand with a gentle smile. "She's my guest. Let her in." Gasps filled the room. No one had expected him to side with her. The maitre d' stammered, unsure of what to do. The girl blinked back tears. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. And the millionaire's reaction was only the beginning of a lesson the whole restaurant would never forget. The millionaire guided the girl inside, ignoring the stunned stares of his wealthy guests. He pulled out a chair at his own table. "Sit," he said warmly, as though she belonged there all along. The girl hesitated, clutching her worn notebook to her chest. "I wasn't here to eat," she whispered. "I just wanted to ask about a job." The room fell into an uneasy silence. A few patrons chuckled under their breath, mocking her honesty. But the millionaire's expression only softened. "And what kind of job would that be?" he asked. "I can wait tables, clean anything. I just need to help my mom with bills," she replied, her voice trembling but steady enough to reveal her determination. The millionaire leaned back, studying her. Then, in a voice loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, he said, "Do you know who built this place?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably. "It wasn't the money in my bank account. It was people like her, workers who start with nothing but grit and perseverance." He stood, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. "If you're brave enough to walk into this place, you're brave enough to work here. Starting tomorrow, you'll be on my team." Gasps erupted, and the maitre d's face turned pale. The girl's eyes widened in disbelief as applause slowly filled the room. For the first time that night, the laughter wasn't mocking, it was admiration. The millionaire looked down at her and smiled. "One day, they'll be lining up for a reservation at your restaurant." She bit her lip, tears slipping down her cheeks, realizing her life had just changed forever. The next morning, the girl showed up to the restaurant in her only pair of clean clothes, her notebook tucked under her arm. She half expected someone to tell her it had all been a mistake. But the millionaire himself was waiting at the door. "You showed up," he said with a proud smile. "That's the first test passed." The staff, still skeptical, watched as he handed her an apron. She wasn't given the glamorous front desk role, nor a server's tray. Instead, she was sent to the kitchen to wash dishes. The pile towered above her head, steam clouding her face. Yet she didn't complain. By the third hour, her hands were raw and blistered. But she kept humming softly, the same melody she used to sing to her little brother when their stomachs were empty and hope was scarce. One of the chefs overheard her and paused. "Kid, you've got grit," he muttered. Later that night, the millionaire walked through the kitchen. He noticed her still working, sweat dripping, sleeves rolled. Most would have given up. Instead, she was smiling. "You like this?" he asked. She looked up, surprised. "No, sir. But I like where it could lead." For the first time, he truly saw her, not as a poor girl, but as someone with the fire he once had when he was young and broke. As he left the kitchen, he whispered to himself, "She reminds me of me." What she didn't know was that the millionaire had already decided, this girl wasn't just going to be another worker. She was going to be his greatest investment. The next morning, the girl arrived early, nervous but hopeful. She expected more dishes, more scrubbing, and another long day. Instead, the millionaire himself was waiting for her in the dining hall, an envelope in his hand. "Sit," he said firmly, but with a rare gentleness. She obeyed, unsure of what was happening. He placed the envelope on the table. "Do you know why I started this restaurant?" he asked. She shook her head. "It wasn't for money. I already had more than I needed. It was for people, to create a place where anyone could feel welcome. Last night you reminded me of that." With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, not of dismissal, but of opportunity. A scholarship application, fully funded by him, to a renowned hospitality school. Her eyes filled with tears. Why me?" she whispered. "Because you have what money can't buy," he said. "Heart. And that is what this world needs." Word of the event spread quickly. The same diners who once looked down on her now applauded her courage. Employees who doubted her began treating her with respect. Months later, dressed in a crisp uniform, she returned to the restaurant, not as a dishwasher, but as a trained staff member, leading others with the same kindness she once showed in desperation. The millionaire stood proudly at her side, telling anyone who asked, "This girl isn't here because I helped her. She's here because she refused to give up." That night, as she watched customers smile and laugh, she realized something important. Sometimes rejection isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of a story worth telling. And her story had just begun. 2 weeks passed, and the girl's life revolved around the restaurant. She scrubbed dishes until her hands ached, wiped tables others ignored, and even stayed late to sweep the floors. The staff, who once whispered behind her back, now found themselves silently admiring her. One evening, disaster struck. A large corporate party booked at the last minute, and the restaurant was short-staffed. The manager panicked, servers were overwhelmed, plates piled high, and angry customers began to raise their voices. The girl, though still just a dishwasher, couldn't stand by. She tied her apron tighter, grabbed a tray, and stepped onto the floor. With steady hands and a warm smile, she moved from table to table, serving drinks, remembering orders, calming guests with words that felt genuine. The millionaire, seated in the corner, watched it all. Every detail. She was no longer invisible. At one table, a man barked, "You forgot my order!" Instead of panicking, she bent slightly, met his eyes, and said softly, "I'll make sure it's perfect this time. Please give me one more chance." The man, startled by her sincerity, nodded. By the end of the night, the chaos had turned into applause. Customers left smiling, complimenting the new girl, who had saved the evening. When the doors finally closed, the millionaire approached her. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried something more. "You weren't hired to serve tables. But tonight you saved my restaurant." She lowered her head, unsure if she was about to be scolded or praised. "From now on," he continued, "you're not just another worker here. You're part of my team." For the first time, she felt like she belonged.